from stuff.co.nz.
Let's play tonight.
Yo, it's a manhunt, my mentality is militia. If my 4th, 5th had lips, I'm making friends kiss ya. Cause no miss is impossible. I carry my Wu-Tang sword on my back and attack all obstacles.
It's hip-hop.
Buildings, avenging my father.
In a game.
Store for ransom.
What's the game? Well, it's Grand Theft Auto Chinatown Wars. Game Junkie from the Game Junkie blog at stuff.co.nz and Game Junkie NZ on Twitter. Gerard Campbell joins us to chat about this game and a few others on the PlayStation Portable. Hello to you, Gerard.
G'day, Glenn. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. Gosh, that's a stonking soundtrack right there.
Isn't it? Was that the Chinatown one? Was it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, well, but that's an interesting one because it first came out on the Nintendo DS last year. And it was an absolute, for gamers, it was an absolute hit because it was, for the DS is probably more sort of akin to sort of family games and kids games, so this was actually a real mature, hardcore game for it, and critics loved it, but it didn't seem to do well sale-wise, especially for, considering Rockstar games like Grand Theft Auto 4, how well they sell.
Yeah.
So I think Rockstar were probably a wee bit disappointed on how well it sold on the DS, so it's being made for the PlayStation Portable now. And, it's probably a natural progression for it, because the PSP has had a couple of Grand Theft Auto games on it before, and it fitted really well, so, they've sort of... The gameplay's essentially the same. Missions are going to be the same. There's going to be a few extra side missions and bits and pieces, but I think where it's really going to improve over the DS version is probably visuals, because the PSP can produce far better graphics, more sort of accurate 3D visuals. So I think
right, it's got a bit more grunt under the hood.
Yeah, it has. It's got a lot more grunt under the hood, so it's going to look a lot better visually. And of course, the big thing for the DS version was that you could use the DS's touch-sensitive screen on the body. You use it for mini games, like if you were hijacking a car or hot wiring a car, you'd have to, use the stylus in a circular motion to undo screws on a panel, and then you'd have to twist wires together. So that was a really good tactile feature of the DS version, but because the PSP doesn't have a touchscreen, they're having to use the analog stick, the analog nub they call it, and you're going to have to sort of use that to do those mini games. So
would this be familiar with anyone who has played the other Grand Theft Auto games, on the Xbox or on the PC?
I think it would be, because the Grand Theft Auto franchise has sort of had a huge history over, starting out on the PC and then going into consoles and the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, and it has appeared on the PSP before. So I think it's most gamers who follow the franchise will know. That it's been on all those formats, and they'll sort of know that it's coming out. But it's a slightly different story. It doesn't feature any of the characters that were in any of the previous GTA games. So it's, and like from the name Chinatown Wars, it sort of involves Asian triads and a sort of a ceremonial sword that gets stolen and then gets moved between gangs. So your character has to sort of try and recover that sword and reclaim the honour to the family, that sort of thing. So it's a completely different sort of storyline to what the GTA games have had in the past. Okay.
All right, and have you had a hands-on this one? Or is it...
No, I haven't. When I saw Rockstar, we basically saw somebody playing it. There was no sort of hands-on at this stage, but from what I can tell, comparing it to the DS version, the missions seem the same and it seems to play the same, but the visuals just a lot sharper and it just seemed to be a bit crisper than they were on the DS version. But then that said, the DS version looks superb, for what a Nintendo DS can do. Which was, and the Chinatown Wars on the DS would probably be my pick of the best DS game for last year.
Tell us about another one on the PSP, Beaterator.
Yeah, that's a really interesting one, because it's not really a game. It's I guess it's a music application. I guess it sort of stems from, in 2002, I think, that Rockstar had an online sort of, I can't remember what it's called, I think it might have been called Rhymerator, which was like a web-based lyric creator, and you sort of did, sort of hip-hop lyrics. And so I think Beaterator is sort of a natural progression from that, and what it is essentially is that Rockstar are dubbing it as a music studio on your PSP, basically, and that you're going to be able to record music onto it or use some of the samples and the loops that are on the game disc, and it's also a downloadable game. But it's got the support of Timbaland, So he's promoting it really heavily, and there are a lot of his back catalogue is on the game, so you're going to be able to use his samples, and you can isolate. I mean, my musical DJ term's not great, but you can isolate the various layers,
right?
And then you can speed them up, you can slow them down, you can add different bits to them, and you can do that during playback. So you can do it on the fly, or you can pause it, and you can make all those changes. So I think for somebody who's really got a love of music and really fancies himself as a bit of a record spinner, they're probably going to really enjoy this, because it'll really, I mean, I guess the only limit is your imagination when it comes to this sort of software.
So it sounds like it's taking that whole online mashup culture.
Yeah, definitely it has.
And making it legal and putting it on this portable format. I think it's a fantastic idea.
Yeah, well, it has, because of course what you can do also too is that once you've created something, you can share it with other PSP users using the Wi-Fi, or you can save it onto the memory stick and then pass it on, that sort of thing. And also, Rockstar, that they have a sort of an online, I guess it's like an online sort of social network, and it's called, like a social club sort of thing. And you can visit that, and you can, upload your tracks, and so you can sort of share it with this whole community. So yeah, it's really taking that sort of that studio mixing thing and putting it into your hands. So you can sort of take it around with you anywhere, and sort of, I guess if you're waiting for the bus, you can make some beats and that sort of thing. Yeah, but I mean, I think it's really going to appeal to somebody who really wants to get into the music and sort of just experiment. And I think it's going to be not only hip hop, but there will be sort of house music and UK stuff and that sort of thing. So there's going to be a lot of wide-ranging genres that you can sort of muck around with.
Okay, and when's Beaterator
out? End of October, I think. I think we're looking, so we're looking end of October, I think, sort of, for that. And
great, and I'd imagine unlimited kind of expansions into the future, I suppose. They can keep on adding samples to it.
Yeah, definitely. I think the potential for sort of, new downloadable content, and Rockstar was sort of saying that, there could be potential for other artists to come on board as well. So there's unlimited potential there for what people could do with it and stuff that they could update it with.
All right, let's finally look at something called Motorstorm Arctic Edge.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a new one that I downloaded onto my PSP last week. And for PS3 owners, they'll know that one of the very first games that came out for the PS3 was a racing game called Motorstorm. And, I really enjoyed it, because what it was it was really hardcore racing, but it was, it wasn't on tarmac tracks. It was on, it might have been racing around on the top of a volcano, or through, dusty valleys or jungles, and and it was a real gritty, hardcore racing game. And if you hit an obstacle, everything would slow down, and you could zoom in, and you could see bolts flying out, and so it was a really good hardcore on the front. So this is the PSP version, and I guess with the name Arctic Edge, it takes place. It sort of brings this underground racing to the Arctic Circle. So there's a lot of
because that's where everyone wants to go race, right?
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, take your thermals and your sleeping bag and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so a lot of the races take place on ice floes and in snow and that sort of thing. And the thing that's, I've only had a short look at it, but the thing that has impressed me with it so far is that it seems to be a really faithful recreation of the PS3 version.
Yeah.
And the visuals look really, really good. And I'm guessing, now that, because with previous sort of firmware upgrades for the PSP, developers are now able to unlock the full potential of what the PSP can do. And it's like any sort of console that, now that it's been around for a while, that developers are actually start to really push the envelope when it comes to, getting the most grunt out of it graphically and that sort of thing. And it's got a really good, with most racing games, it's sort of got a fairly heavy sort of rock soundtrack to it. But yeah, this looks like it could be a really promising one, and I think it's sort of the PSP's really fallen behind on the Nintendo DS after in the last few years. So I think the next few months is really going to see that there's a bit of a renaissance for the PSP. There's actually some really good stuff coming out for it, because up until now, probably really, the only must-have or one of the blockbuster titles for the PSP was God of War: Chains of Olympus.
Right.
So it's actually good to see some really good, top-quality stuff for the PSP coming through.
Yeah, and a great opportunity for us to take a look at some PSP titles.
Oh, definitely too.
Didn't really know what was going on there.
Yeah, and plus with the new PSP Go, it's going to be launching in New Zealand early next month.
At what price point?
Well, it's for $499.95.
Right.
So you're looking at, and there's been a bit of debate on the blogs and the forums that people are thinking it's quite high, and it is quite a high price. I mean, considering that you can probably pick up one of the brand new lighter, slimmer PS3s for sort of the mid 500 mark.
Yeah.
But I mean, second thoughts, I mean, the new PSP is bringing a few more features and downloadable content, that sort of thing. So, as with any sort of new technology, the price is bound to come down.
Excellent.
Over a month. But yeah, it's things to looking at for the PSP at the moment.
Great. Game Junkie, Gerard Campbell, thanks very much. People can check out your blog and all the discussions over at stuff.co.nz and get into a debate with you on Twitter as well, twitter.com/GameJunkieNZ. See you, mate.
Certainly can. Thank you.